Hello, and welcome to This Week in James City County. I'm your host, Renee Dahlman. Today, Lauren is back with us as we continue on our fifth episode of our six-part series, which is amazing, on the state of housing in James City County. Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks, Renee. It's great to be here.
Well, and it's very exciting. We have a new face. Tell us, who is this?
Yes, today I'm joined by Jasmin Christian. Jasmin is our Housing Resource Navigator. So I'm super excited that today we're going to talk about Jasmin's position. We're going to talk about homeownership and all the programs that we have in our housing office.
Wonderful. Well, I love the sound of Housing Resource Navigator. That sounds very exciting. So tell us, what does that position do?
So our Housing Resource Navigator, Jasmin, coordinates our housing counseling program, first-time homebuyer program, employee-assisted homeownership program. And as the navigator, Jasmin does exactly that. She navigates. She helps homebuyers navigate the process of homeownership from start to finish. This can include, but is definitely not limited to, providing information on available housing units, providing pre-purchase counseling, including credit information, budgeting, financial case management services, and she also reviews contracts, leases, and identifies resources for assistance. She acts as a liaison between the key players in the home buying process for her first-time home buyers, and she also coordinates all of our home ownership housing counseling classes and workshops. These classes and workshops contain very vital information, including information on pre-purchase counseling, which is a requirement for certain programs that a first-time homebuyer may utilize. And our housing office is also unique in that we have multiple HUD-certified housing counselors on staff.
Well, I am confident that there are people watching and listening to this podcast right now going, I wish I had a navigator on my first home purchase, because it truly is one of the most complicated things to go through. There are so many important steps, and knowledge and good planning, that is so important. And so that's so great that we have these positions. So tell me, how does a HUD certified housing counselor assist in the buyer's process?
So HUD-certified housing counselors are extremely knowledgeable. They understand the mortgage process as well as the financial components for a home buyer to become mortgage ready. Counselors can assist with the planning, budgeting, and debt management needed to prepare for homeownership. And HUD housing counselors can help buyers navigate the loan process and provide educational pieces that are very key to that as well. There are maybe other individuals who identify as housing counselors, but it's really important that when you're a first-time home buyer to make sure that you are working with somebody who has the designation of being a HUD-certified housing counselor.
Well, so it sounds like, Jasmin, you are the person to start with for people looking to buy their first home. So tell us, what is it that you do? How are you able to help folks when they're starting the buyer's process?
So yes, our office is a great starting point, and all of our resources are free of charge. They connect the buyer with many resources. A great place to start in the home buying process is going to be that pre-purchase counseling. A pre-purchase session will help you figure out the processes from loan approval, financing options, the closing process, maintaining the home, and even predatory lending practices. So once the buyer understands the full cost of home ownership, what their credit is, and they have a budget in place, then they will be ready to seek lenders for that pre-approved mortgage loan.
Okay, well, it sounds like counseling is really important. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so counseling is something that should happen before anybody buys a home, especially a first-time home buyer. And so before buyers attend pre-purchase counseling classes, they meet with Jasmin, our Housing Resource Navigator, at our office one-on-one. We review their budget, their spending plan, their credit, and we create an action plan to prepare the person for home ownership. Once the action plan is created, then the Housing Resource Navigator, Jasmin, encourages the buyer to attend the pre-purchase counseling classes.
All right. So, Jasmin, what can you add to that?
So a lot of lenders and agencies who provide that financial assistance for first-time homebuyers, they require a pre-purchase counseling. Pre-purchase counseling classes walk the homebuyer through the home ownership process from start to finish, so they have a full and clear understanding of what is expected as a future homeowner and what to expect through the steps in the process. The classes have experienced professionals who provide information on each step. There's a counselor who reviews money management and financial planning, a lender who explains the importance of your credit history and what different mortgage options there are. Another professional that is a part of the class is a home inspector, and home inspections can help you avoid costly repairs down the road. Spending a few $100s could save you thousands in the future. Some mortgage loans require a home inspection and some don't, but having that information provided on the home inspection report is essential for the home buyer to know what they're getting themselves into when they invest in buying a house. The last component of the class reviews the closing process, and a representative from a title company goes over what to expect. And as you can see, a home buyer will interact with many different professionals, and the home buyer education class is great that it brings all the professionals into one room.
Yeah, that's great. So attending that class, that's just the first step though, right?
Just the first step. And the next step is working with your mortgage lender. So the lender will ask about your work history, your credit score, savings, and any other financial pieces in info that they might need to pre-qualify the buyer. The mortgage pre-approval will give the buyer the numbers regarding what the housing budget looks like, and they will review your loan estimate, which is not the final numbers, but it's a very close estimate, and it will give you all the rates, your fees, your costs associated with your loan, and that loan estimate allows the buyer to start shopping for a home.
Well, and I remember from our experience that pre-approval was so important. So that way you're making sure that you're looking for houses that are in your price range and you're not
Yes.
looking at mansions when you may be looking for a starter home. So that's very important. So how does the buyer start shopping for a home?
The best place to start shopping for a home is with a realtor. Realtors are an essential part of the purchasing process. And while a home may be available, the buyer can reach out to the listing agent on their own. But the realtor is there to handle negotiations, speak on behalf of the buyer, and represent the best interests of the buyer. The listing agent is not the buyer's realtor, and they're there to represent the owner of their home and their best interests. We have some wonderful relationships with reputable, knowledgeable, and very experienced realtors in James City County, including our partnership with the Williamsburg Area Realtors Association. They are one of our best resources, and all of our partners that are associated with them are really wonderful as well.
Okay, so our buyers have found the perfect house in James City County and they are ready to buy, right? Everything's done. Check, check, check.
Yes, in a perfect world, the buyer has found their house. The seller agrees and the offer is accepted, but there's still some more work to do. So the buyer gives the lender the property information and provides the necessary documents to the underwriter. And then the underwriter will analyze the finances, the home, and estimate the risk of issuing the loan. Ultimately, they will determine if the loan is approved or denied. And it is during that time that they may require a home appraisal. And the home appraisal value must be greater than the loan amount, or at least the loan amount. And during that time, the buyer will have the option to have a home inspection on the house. They've selected a home inspection is optional, but always strongly recommended. And it can uncover problems that weren't included in the seller's disclosures or inform the buyer about potential repairs or concerns. There will also be a title search, and this is to confirm that the property is free and clear of any outstanding claims, unpaid taxes, or judgments. These services are typically part of the closing costs, and they're around 2 to 6% of the loan. And during the time that the buyer will also need to secure some homeowners insurance. Most lenders require that there is homeowners insurance policy in place before approving the loan.
Okay, so then we've got to be about done, right? We're at the end of the process. We can start moving in.
We're almost there. So the last step in the process is known as the closing or the settlement. And it's the very heavy document that you're going to be signing all day. The buyer receives the closing disclosure at least 3 days prior to closing, and they need to read it carefully. It will review the terms and the fees that will be due at signing. And it's important to compare the loan estimate to your closing disclosure. And you should talk to a lender about any discrepancies that you see. So the buyer will confirm how much they need to bring to the closing table, what documents are required, and again, the closing attorney or the settlement agent that represents the seller or the lender, not the buyer. So we need to recommend the buyer have a great real estate attorney for themselves, and that the real estate agent attends the closing with them, and no questions should go unanswered before you finish signing all those documents.
Jasmin, it's pretty neat because you're going through this and I just have all these little snapshots in my mind of, when we went through that, and it's really exciting, but it's very stressful, or it can be at the same time.
It definitely can be stressful.
Now, I really like the way that you went through all of this step by step, but does the process always go as it's planned?
No, it does not. There can always be barriers. And in general, the biggest barrier for a first-time home buyer is their lack of knowledge. Most schools don't teach students about the home buying process or even financially prepare them to become a homeowner. The home buying process and loan options in general are very foreign to most people. We work in this every day, but we know that not everybody does. And a key piece of financial education our office provides is a deeper understanding about the endless cycle of debt obligations, lack of savings, student loans, wages not keeping up with inflation, and the general state of the housing market. The condition of the real estate market is a barrier in and of itself, and most notable is just the lack of inventory and affordable housing. Affordable housing is an infrastructure issue, and our job as HUD certified housing counselors and Jasmin's job as a housing resource navigator is to help the buyer become better able to afford the housing options that are available.
All right.
And working with the housing office, it can help you, the buyer, create a game plan based on where you are financially. Interest rates right now are around 7.5, 8%. And while they are higher than they were in 2020, 2021, they are still historically low. Home prices rose with the lower interest rates, adjusting the market to what it is now. And future home buyers should know that the adjusting market and that there are negotiables and non-negotiables when it comes to their future home. And they should aim to stay within your means. Our goal is to provide those options and empower the buyer to make the choices that are right for them as an individual.
So what do you see as maybe the biggest financial obstacle that some people may have when it comes to buying a home?
The biggest financial mistake that can impact the goal of home ownership is debt obligation. Most people understand that having a good credit score is important, and that the difference between a 500 and a 700 credit score is important. But not a lot of buyers think about their debt to income ratio and even about how their debt impacts their credit score. The debt to income ratio, or the DTI as we refer to it, we encourage buyers to strive for is about 43% or lower. Doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year. 43% is 43%. And so that means that a $600 car payment could be the deciding factor in getting a mortgage loan pre-approval. When a future homebuyer works with our housing resource navigator and a HUD certified housing counselor through our office, they're given a clear picture of their debt to income ratio, and they're given reasonable suggestions on how to get to that 43%. Jasmin is probably one of the most knowledgeable people we have in our office on helping people understand their credit, and then also helping them get to where they want to be with reasonable, clear, and attainable goals.
Well, and I think that that's so important. And I'm so glad that you do that, Jasmin, because there could be people watching this thinking, oh, well, it's too late. We have a $600 car payment. There's no way that we'd be able to do that. But that's not the case. You can help work them through that. And that's so important. So important. Now, let's look at renting. Compared to renting, how is homeownership a better deal?
The biggest advantage of homeownership is wealth building. So you're building equity in your home as you pay down the mortgage balance. At the same time, your home value can increase and it adds to your net worth. So homeownership is always the best long-term investment. Homeowners can also take advantage of tax deductions as well. And another advantage of homeownership is the predictable monthly payment. If you're in a fixed rate mortgage, your payment will never increase during the time of the loan. And an intangible advantage of homeownership that it may offer some social benefits. Most people tend to feel a greater connection to the community when they own their home versus renting their home.
One other thing, Renee, that I just want to add, it is extremely possible for anybody to become a home buyer. We have worked with somebody in our office who was navigating the home ownership process with us for about 8 years. And that person was extremely consistent. They followed the plan. It took them a little bit, but they did all the things that they needed to. And they are a home buyer and a homeowner in James City County. So do not be discouraged.
That is very important, an important message for sure. I like that. So I do know you were talking earlier about different finance opportunities. I know that the county has a program that helps employees. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, the employee does have an employee assisted home ownership program. With housing and transportation costs combined, they can often account for about 50% or 57% of a working family's household budget. The employee assisted home ownership programs enable people to live near their workplace, which can reduce both of these costs. It frees up income that can be saved or spent on other needs, and the employee spends less time commuting and more time with their family or in community. Employee assisted homeownership programs are a valuable tool that also help employees, employers, and the community. The employee also builds wealth, like we just talked about, in the form of home equity. And can tell you that James City County has a wonderful employee assisted homeownership program. This program matches employee savings up to $3,000 in order to assist them with the purchase of a primary residence within James City County or the city of Williamsburg. The employee works with our Housing Resource Navigator to assess their household income, their budget, their debts, and their credit. And then the Housing Resource Navigator, Jasmin, like we just talked about, will provide suggestions to the employee to improve their qualification to receive a mortgage. Eligible employees include full-time, regular, limited term, or other positions within the county, to include constitutional officers or a government entity that has adopted the personal policies and procedures of the county, such as the JCSA, Williamsburg Regional Library, and WADA. Eligible employees must also not already own a primary residence in the county or the city and have a household income that does not exceed the current guidelines that are established by VHJA.
Now, unfortunately, I understand that there are some people out there that do not work for the best county in the entire world. What kind of assistance could they get? But, while they're waiting to come and work for James City County, of course.
There are other assistance programs, and we partner with an organization called the HRPDC, and that's the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. They are the regional administrator for the down payment and closing cost assistance from DHCD. If eligible, they can provide up to $14,500 towards down payment and or closing costs, and this can be combined or layered with other subsidies and grants that the buyer may be eligible for, such as the employee assisted homeownership match of funds, federal home loan bank grants, and also other subsidies that lenders may have. So it's a stackable amount of money.
Okay, well, Jasmin, I do need to interrupt this real quick and give you kudos. You've not lived here worked here very long, correct?
No, just a few months.
Just a few months. Okay. I think I had worked here 25 years before I knew what HRPDC meant. And you just did a great job. Just knocked that out of the park. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
So I know that we have talked about a lot of different ideas and tips that can help, but what would you say for each of you would be that one tip that is most important for home buyers?
Plan. And it's okay to plan. You deserve the house. You deserve to own a home. And it's okay to make a plan. It's okay not to be ready right now. I feel as though we live in the technology age and a lot of instant gratification, and you might not feel like you're there yet. You're there. You just have to make a plan to get exactly where you want to be. So stay encouraged.
Oh, I love that. Can you beat that one? I don't think you can.
I don't know. That's so good. Kind of to piggyback off of that just a little bit is that knowledge is power and education is power. And so when you have knowledge and education about what your current financial state is, and knowledge and education about what your goals are and what's realistic, then you can make that plan. And that plan is so important. And
Yes.
We are so excited to be able to help anybody who wants to be a homeowner and come and live in James City County with their plan, with their education, and help them get the home of their dreams.
Once again, your office is able to do so much great stuff for the folks that live and want to live in our area. We are so very fortunate to have you guys.
We are, and we love being here, and we love helping all of the citizens and constituents in James City County. And just like we talked about in previous episodes, the housing office is truly a one-stop shop for housing needs. We've talked about how a family can go from experiencing homelessness to entering into shelter, to our transitional housing and voucher programs, and to home ownership. So this means that everybody, even our most vulnerable neighbors experiencing homelessness, to those who are longtime voucher participants and employees, can become a homeowner. And homeownership looks different for everybody on their housing journey. And we are so proud to be able to provide those individualized and specialized services.
That's amazing. So again, we are on the 5th episode of 6. So what can you give us as a little bit of a preview for what that final or that ultimately final, episode will be?
So the next episode, the final episode, is going to be for our home buyers who have lived in James City County. They have aged in place. They are our mature, most well-known citizens. They have spent their lives in James City County, and maybe their homes haven't kept up with the times. So we're going to be talking about our rehab and revitalization projects, and you guys will get to meet Mike Paget, and he is our CDBG and home repair, home revitalization specialist. He has so many years of experience working with these programs, working with these citizens, and really helping people stay in their homes for as long as they choose to.
Okay, well, and as someone who has just recently gone through some pretty significant housing rehab that we needed to do, it's so important. So I cannot wait for our next episode. Thank you both so much. Jasmin, it wasn't too bad, was it?
Not at all. Thank you for having me.
Very
It was
good.
great
Well,
to see you, Renee, and
Yeah.
we'll see you on the next episode.
I cannot wait. And welcome again, Jasmin. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, that wraps up this episode of This Week in James City County. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please take a moment and subscribe. That way you will be sure to never miss an episode. And also go to our website. We're at jamescitycountyva.gov/podcast. And while there, you're going to be able to find all of our episodes as well as a form you can complete, give us show ideas, comments, critiques. We would love to hear from you. So once again, thank you so much, and we will talk with you next time.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.